Hello again, everybody, and welcome to episode number 17 of From the Studio. After a 2-week break, we're back. I'm your host, Corey Riggs, welcome you inside our MC22 studio and happy to be with you all once again. On this week's show, we take a look at Kansas City with so much going on there, from the Royals getting their 60-game season started to training camp for the Kansas City Chiefs opening and more. There's a ton to talk about and nobody better to visit with than Vahe Gregorian, the columnist for the Kansas City Star. He will visit with us about all those topics and more on this show. Then we'll catch up with the new sports director at KOMU, Channel 8 in Columbia. As Mid-Missouri legend Chris Gervino retired from that post in June, a favorite son steps up to take his place. Ben Arnet is a graduate of Columbia Hickman High School and the University of Missouri. He was most recently with the SEC Network. We look forward to talking to Ben about his new job and his road to it. As always, if you like our show, please let us know on social media. We're open to suggestions on topics to tackle or guests to have on. Look us up on Twitter at FromTheStudio22. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned. Vahe Gregorian from the Kansas City Star joins us next on From the Studio.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
As COVID-19 impacts our community, Metro Appliances and More continues to serve you. Although our showroom is closed, our business is open. Live chat on our website or call the store and speak to an appliance expert. Metro Appliances and More is committed to serving you safely. Even in uncertain times, Blue Current remains open to serve you. At Blue Current, almost all services can be completed from your mobile device in the safety of your own home. Visit our website for details or download our app. Blue Current is committed to building better communities together.
Welcome back to From the Studio now here on MC22 as we are joined by one of the talented journalists that covers sports for the Kansas City Star. And with so much going on in the Kansas City market, it was a no-brainer to reach out and try to visit with Vahe Gregorian. Vahe, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Corey. Thanks. Glad to be with you.
I'm glad to have a chance to talk to you. There has just been so much going on in and around Kansas City, both related to football, baseball, you name it. Let's begin with maybe some good news or something that's brought some joy to Kansas City sports fans. And that is the story of Patrick Mahomes. Now, everybody loved this kid, and he didn't have to do anything else. Bringing a Super Bowl trophy to Kansas City for the first time in 50 years was enough to make him iconic for the rest of his life. But he's gone a step further now and has joined the ownership group of the Kansas City Royals. Walk me through what you know about this process and maybe what prompted this young man to invest some of that $500 million contract right there in Kansas City.
Well, there's a few different forces at play in this. Part of it is just Patrick's sort of abiding love for the game of baseball. He was quite a baseball player too, but as you know, and most of your audience probably knows, his dad was a Major League Baseball player, 11 years. And a lot of people think that some of Patrick's poise and polish early has a lot to do with having been around locker rooms, clubhouses all his life. But the other part of it that I think is really the most salient part is it really speaks to this ongoing, sort of love affair between Patrick and Kansas City. Patrick got here and immediately started endearing himself to the city and ingratiating himself in multiple ways, just kind of immersing himself in the community with things like showing up at the Kansas Speedway in jorts and a T-Bones minor league baseball shirt and being kind of a man about town before he was even starting, before he'd really established himself as, a generational player and pivotal change agent in this franchise's trajectory. So then you get that, and now you get, it just keeps accelerating and picking up one in front of the other. Fans love the more he does more. I mean, it just keeps going that way. And when we were talking kind of off the air before, I think you made the point that, and you may have just said it now too, but alluding to that just when you thought Kansas City couldn't feel more for him or about him, then this happens. And so it comes hand in hand with buying in comes hand in hand with this 10-year contract extension that's, pretty stupefying number, which again, that was a reflection of the love affair. And then weeks later, he does this. We don't really know, at least I don't know. I don't think we have any primary reporting that tells us how much of an ownership stake it is. There are about a couple dozen investors in John Sherman's group. I don't think it's enough for Patrick to be able to put himself in the lineup, although the Royals probably another pitching arm right about now. It's been kind of a rough start to the season. One last point on this, just now, Corey, before I am, I had a phone with actually yesterday with Brett Beach, the Chiefs general manager. Sam Mellinger, my colleague, and I had that time with him, and I asked Brett about his thoughts about Patrick buying into the Royals. He's just looking for Patrick to buy Worlds of Fun now. So stay tuned. There may be more coming.
Well, he's already been credited with the bringing Whataburger to Kansas City here before too long. So, I mean, there's nothing this young man can't do. The other storyline, obviously, that is so prevalent right now is the restart of the Major League Baseball season, the 60-game sprint. I don't even know that it's fair to call it a season. I'm not sure how I feel about it. But you had a great piece in the Star talking about the premise of reopening sports in the United States and, not necessarily saying that the bubble works, but the success that leagues like the NHL, MLS, and the NBA have had by being in the bubble. And then obviously we've seen the problems that the Marlins have run into, the problems that the St. Louis Cardinals have run into. When you compare the two models of what Major League Baseball is doing and what some of the other franchises are doing, are you surprised at the struggles that baseball is having to get going?
I'm not really surprised. I guess we've had some major things happen earlier than I thought they would, right? You sort of thought, at least I sort of thought, there'll be a little bit here, a little bit there for a few weeks, and then we'll really see what's going on. And then this Marlins thing was just crazy. And, there are those who thought that once they started traveling, right, that was sort of the second set of road trips for some teams. And, once that stuff started going on, that what you can't really sort out is the spread of the infections. It's so hard without the right tracing abilities, without the right ability to shut it down. And in that sense, it parallels, sort of the rest of the world, right? Especially the backdrop we have in the United States, where we've got a lot of different strategies that don't add up to one strategy, and we've got political fighting over things that are matters of science. And against that backdrop, this kind of is the nature of what the context of all this is. So hence the bubble apparently works a lot better, right? So let's see, the bubble insulates and isolates these factors in a way that we're just not going to see in football and baseball. Well, let's stick with baseball. So from the Royals' perspective, I have found this interesting and not conclusive, but interesting. I believe they've taken it very seriously, gone above and beyond protocols in a lot of ways. We'll see players with masks on the field. That's not part of baseball's protocol, but it's less than perfect because you have every little thing that could go wrong at the stadium, even with all that, and then you have the outside factor. But it's been almost 2 weeks since the Royals had a positive. They had about 8 in a little flurry early, and it suggests that they have continued to take it seriously and sort of maybe found a little more structure to ways to avoid it. We had a great talk with Danny Duffy, the great person and Royals pitcher, the other day, and he really talked about how it's irresponsible to go even into a restaurant on the road. He's even leery of getting room service at the best hotels in the country. So they're of the mindset to play it safe. Whether everybody's executing, of course, is the big X factor in the whole season.
Now, Danny's right. It's whether you're a Major League Baseball player or whether you're just a regular Joe going to work every day, it's all about personal responsibility right now. And that can't be discounted. You mentioned the NFL. Obviously, they are kind of in the proverbial catbird seat. They are the biggest dog on the block. They have been able to sit back and watch almost every other professional sports league try to begin their seasons again. But the nature of the game of football doesn't lend itself to social distancing. It's not like soccer. It's not even like baseball. It's about slobber knockers and grabbing a guy and throwing him to the ground. What do you think? Is there anything from all the other leagues' experiments that you think can help the NFL get started?
Well, it's interesting because I do think the NFL has certain measures in place that look a little different to me. I still can't exactly tell you the whole science on this, but we had an interesting session with the Chiefs head athletic trainer, Rick Burkholder, the other day, who's been instrumental in NFL policies. And he was even talking about the contact tracers that they're all wearing when they're at the facility. So you know how long Patrick Mahomes has been within a few feet of Travis Kelce.
Wow.
You can track all this stuff if something happens. In fact, the players even wear these things on the field. Brett Veach was telling us they've got them, they put them in their socks when they're out there, and it's like little lights blinking and like they look like little robots out there. But that's far more extensive than anything I've heard about. Mm-hmm. But I can't really explain to you exactly how that all works, other than it suggests that they have the ability to trace and thus isolate. And obviously they're doing a lot of testing. But to your point, it's funny you mentioned slobber knockers. I actually was thinking of that term earlier today. I was out on a walk with my dog, and I was just thinking that's the whole crux of this. It is a sport built on contact and collision and blood, sweat, and tears and saliva, breathing on each other. Now, we're told the NFL is looking at different ways. Maybe they're experimenting with possible like Oakley face masks and, things that can cover most of the body. But again, fundamentally, the game is about, that kind of contact. And the other thing that's really true, and it's part of why the bubble is almost impractical, is there are so many more people, so many more players than on any of these teams. I mean, you're talking about dozens and dozens and dozens. How you isolate and separate is just inherently harder with football. So we'll see. I mean, Mitchell Schwartz, the offensive lineman the other day, made the point that one of the things with football is once the first domino falls, you don't know how far that's going to go. And that's the deal. Hopefully the measures they're taking are going to help.
That's all we can hope. I know everybody wants to have football back as soon as possible. I don't know, with all the resources that are in place at the NFL level and everything else, if they can't make it work, I don't know what hope there is for college and high school, but that will remain to be seen. Vahe, we so appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Best of luck. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll keep reading, okay?
Thanks, Corey.
All right, Vahe Gregorian from the Kansas City Star with us. We'll be back with more from the studio here in just a minute.
In every community, young people are proving their abilities to lead through accomplishment in the classroom and beyond. At Mediacom, we're proud to recognize these outstanding individuals by awarding world-class scholarships. By investing in these young leaders and their educations, we believe that we're creating a more promising future for everyone. Congratulations to each and every winner. Mediacom, powering the future.
From the studio continues now on MC22. Our next guest has big shoes to fill in mid-Missouri, taking over for the 20-year veteran and Hall of Fame broadcaster Chris Gervino as the sports director at KOMU Channel 8 in Columbia. But he is Columbia grown and Mizzou made and a perfect fit for the job. He is Ben Arnet, and he joins us now. Ben, how are you doing, man?
Doing great. Beautiful day here in KOMU, and hey, man, I'm loving life these days.
Well, I say I'm sure you have hit the ground running. You are just in your first full week back on the job. What was it like getting back into the building there at KOMU and just jumping right back in on Sunday night?
Surreal is the first word that comes to mind. I mean, it's a place that I spent so much time as a student, especially. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours in that building and covered so many great stories back when I was just learning in the early 2000s. And yeah, I've been back to visit at times over the years, but to walk back in a completely renovated newsroom from the last time I was in there, completely new sports office, new studio. You know, there's a lot of things that are familiar, but there are also a lot of things that are completely new, and it's been fun and exciting and really energizing.
Well, even though you are the new guy, you've got so many ties there and in the community. But talk to me a little bit about taking over for Chris. I mean, as a sports journalist, we have covered so many stories talking about having to replace a legendary coach, replace a Hall of Fame player. Now you find yourself replacing a Hall of Fame broadcaster. What sort of hurdles does that put in front of you, and how do you attack them?
Well, first and foremost, one does not replace Chris Trevino. I mean, sure. I've known Chris since I was 7 years old, and he's the one that got me. He got me into this business. I mean, you talk about the 20 years at KOMU, and you know, don't forget about the 10 before that at KMIZ in Columbia, and that's where I met Chris as a high school student. He let me job shadow him when I was in the 9th grade. He was a family friend. We went to the same church together, the Newman Center here in Columbia. And he let me job shadow him when I was in 9th grade, and it was an unbelievable day. And when I walked out of that building that day, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I thought I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. Well, now I knew I did. It's because of the example that Chris set. You know, I worked at KMIZ in high school. Chris is the one that brought me over to Channel 8 when I was in college, got me my job there. And that's where things really took off for me, working on This Week in Mizzou football and Mizzou basketball with Quentin Snyder when I was just 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And so I owe an awful lot to Chris. And my hope is to, you know, honor everything that he built at KOMU and the standard of accuracy and fairness above anything else, while also being myself.
And that is what it is all about. And that's such a great story to have that tie back to when you were so young, to kind of see the business from him, and now you get to be in that same spot, be in that same office. But you know, you go through high school, you're a Columbia Hickman guy, you go to Mizzou, and then you go out on your own. You know, you go from all the way out in Arizona to Kansas to New York. What was that learning experience like, moving from station to station before you finally got the opportunity to come back home?
Yeah, I was the free agent bouncing around everywhere all the time for a lot of years, which is something that a lot of folks do when they're young in this business. And when I was 22 years old, I moved out to Tucson, Arizona, which was just a completely different world from the state of Missouri. But I got a master class in how to a continued master class, really. I worked for a guy in Arizona who was very similar to Chris. His name's Dave Silver. And Dave is an absolute legend and a Hall of Famer in the Tucson market and the Arizona sports scene. And he taught me a lot of the same things that Chris did, but I got a lot of great organization skills from Dave, and just you know, a real good sense of kind of what you owe to the audience as a sportscaster. Got to cover Lute Olson and the Arizona Wildcats, Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and the Phoenix Suns. Some great playoff runs. That was awesome. Some of the playoff series I got to cover. That was a great experience. Wichita, Kansas was awesome because I got to host my own show, and I should have led with this. I met my wife there.
Yes, that's important.
Both TV, both TV folks. She was in news at the time. I was in sports, and it was a match made in heaven, or at least a match made in Wichita. But I got to host my own Sunday night show there, a show called Overtime Live that really prepared me for a lot of stuff, and obviously what we're doing on Sunday nights now with Sports Extra on KOMU. that job also taught me how to juggle a lot of different things, because in that market, it's a pretty big market. It's got a big high school scene. There are about 20 high schools in the city of Wichita alone, and then the metro. In addition to that, you're covering Wichita State. You're also covering Kansas State on a daily basis. They're crazy for the Chiefs there. Really crazy for the Big 12 in Wichita, because, fun fact, Oklahoma State is actually the closest campus to the city of Wichita in terms of miles. It's closer than Manhattan or Lawrence. There's a ton of Oak State, OU, and a lot of Missouri and southern Kansas. But that prepared me well for covering pro sports in Buffalo, New York, which, at the time in my late 20s, that was my dream, was to cover pro sports on a daily basis. And I enjoyed it, but, after a couple of years there covering the Bills and the Sabres and getting to cover things like Pro Football Hall of Fame inductions and Stanley Cup playoffs, and awesome high school sports scene there as well, I knew that I missed college sports. And so coming back home and doing the Mizzou Network thing was a natural fit back in 2011.
You come back home, it's 2011, then all of a sudden everything starts changing there. The university makes the move to the SEC. I don't know how many years it'll take, Ben, before the casual sports fan realizes what a crazy time that was in this industry to all of a sudden see these conference-specific networks start to pop up on the landscape. And you were with the granddaddy of them all, with the SEC network.
Yeah, when we started in 2011, it was October of 2011, and Missouri's in the Big 12. And, the whole genesis of the Mizzou Network was, Texas did Longhorn Network. Oklahoma's kind of got this deal going with Fox Sports regionally. Well, we'll do a digital Mizzou Network. And then a month before we were supposed to launch that, Mizzou jumps to the SEC. and from day one, really, like, the rumblings throughout, the conference from the moment that Mizzou and A&M joined the SEC was we knew the SEC network was coming. 99.9% sure this is kind of how it's going to go. But it took a couple of years for it to come together. And that opportunity really just kind of fell into my lap. I'd always wanted to do play-by-play. I grew up listening to, Jack Buck, Bob Costas, some of the greats, Mitch Holthus, and I wanted to do that, but I got into just kind of TV anchoring side of things. Back when I was young, if you were going to get into play-by-play, really the only way you were going to do that is if most people came from radio and started really small towns, maybe worked their way up through minor league baseball, that kind of stuff. And that just wasn't the route I went. And so I had kind of made my peace with myself that I probably wasn't ever going to do play-by-play. And then all of a sudden along comes the SEC Network with this huge digital broadcasting side of things on SEC Network Plus. And, oh man, we're going to do every single sport the network does, and 40 or 50 times a year. And so that was a really cool thing to start in 2014, because it gave me a chance to do something that I always thought I could probably be pretty good at. I still don't know if I am, but I wanted to give it a shot. And that gave me my opportunity at it. And, how good or bad I am is debatable, but what's not is how much fun I have doing it, because it's an absolute blast to be in that booth with the headset on. Worked with so many great partners over the years, Jared Sutton, Tim Jameson, Ashley Moore, Kira Larson, Simon Rose, Jasmine Johnson on soccer, former Missouri player. Every single time we act together, it's just a blast to probably be here than we have on the air. But it's been so fun to work with all those people and do all those games.
Ben, one more thing before I let you go. You come full circle now back to KOMU. As you're getting into your first full week on the job now, I know you are first and foremost a storyteller. What are maybe one or two stories that you're looking forward to getting into here in the next couple of weeks as you get your feet under you there at KOMU?
Well, I can't wait to get out and cover high school sports. Friday Night Fever on KOMU 8 is a great tradition. We cover more games than any other station in mid-Missouri every single week. We're going to continue doing that with our great student staff. I can't wait to talk to some of the coaches and players here in the preseason, because there's so many great stories at the high school level to tell that mean so much to people in the community, because these are people that make up your community. And of course, hopefully college football continues to trend in the right direction. Hopefully Mizzou is able to continue to get back safely and really, keep pointed towards that new September 26th start date. The SEC continuing to move in that direction, get fall camp on the field. I know Missouri fans are really excited to see what the new staff brings to Mizzou football, especially the offensive creativity that Eli Drinkwitz is known for. That's a really young, energetic staff that brings a lot of energy to their players. Again, just hope that everything continues to come back the right way, in a healthy way, in a safe way. And as that happens, we'll continue to cover it at KOMU and also hopefully get the Cardinals back on the field soon.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Hopefully Yachty gets healthy real soon. You stay healthy, you stay safe. Thank you so much for the time, and we look forward to watching all the stories you'll tell on KOMU in the coming weeks and months.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Ben Arnet joining us from Columbia. We'll be back to wrap up from the studio here in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Judy Ballou, your host for Dishing It Up. I invite you to join me every week as we watch some of the Ozarks' favorite chefs come into the demonstration kitchen at Metro Appliances and More and prepare some of their favorite dishes.
This is fun for TV.
You do sweet and savory together all the time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Watch Dishing It Up on channel 722 in high definition.
Well, that'll about do it for this episode of From the Studio. Remember, you can follow this show on Twitter at FromTheStudio22, or you can follow me at Corey Riggs TV. If you've got an idea for a topic or a guest, please send it our way and we'll try to get them on an upcoming episode. Before we close out this show, we are happy to report that now Mediacom is able to offer this program on its free on-demand platform. So if you can't watch the whole show, or the DVR didn't record at the right time, you can just press the on-demand button on your remote. Go to the folder named TV Networks, then you'll find a label for Extreme Community. That's where all of the MC22 programming is, and you can find From the Studio there and watch it whenever your schedule allows. Our final thank yous for this show go out to our great guests, Vahe Gregorian from the Kansas City Star and the new sports director at KOMU in Columbia, Ben Arnet. And as always, thanks to all of you for watching. Until next time, for our incredible MC22 crew, I'm Corey Riggs saying so long from the studio.